Hey team, welcome back to another incredible episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, and today I'm excited to bring you a very good friend of mine, longtime client. His name is Jon Brabec, and he is the CMO at Frontier Cooperative in Nebraska. Jon, thanks for being on. Welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, good morning, Mark. Excited to join you here today and looking forward to a fun conversation together.
I know it. We've known each other and done a lot of things together over the years, and probably we should just hit record and let people hear some of the backstory conversation because I think it's always interesting. There's a lot of leadership lessons in that too, right? So
Yeah, think about our over 10 years since we met and the journey that we've been on together. Yeah, a lot of good experiences.
Yeah, it's a half a career, quarter of a lifetime in our case. So talk to me a little bit. I'll give you the same opening question everybody gets, though. What's it mean for you, Jon, to be intentional?
Yeah, to be intentional, I think is just, what do I care about? What drives me to get out of bed in the morning? But, caring about agriculture, caring about being a good leader, obviously being a good dad, a good husband. That's what it really means to be intentional and doing the work. Nothing comes easy. You got to work at it a lot. You got to keep getting better every day. I think that's, leveling up, whatever you want to call it. And really to do that, it's, what content are you taking in? How are you focusing on your daily routines, yourself? That's really what it means to me.
Yeah, I love it, man. I think obviously I get to know a lot of leaders, known you personally longer than most. There's a certain level of, I'll call it give a damn, that comes from Jon Brabec. And like when I hear you, the way, like what you know about things, the things that people are willing to tell you, the level of depth of detail that you go to when you're thinking through how to roll something out or how to do something or how to get people bought in to whatever it is that you're selling. Where does that come from for you?
Yeah, that's a good question that you're asking me, Mark. I think a lot of it has to do with something that rings over and over in my head is people don't always remember what you say. They remember how you made them feel. And so whenever I'm trying to create buy-in, you're trying to get people to, go into change, which can be very difficult leading change. And I lead a lot of change. It can be very, very hard. I always try and step back and be like, okay, am I listening to the questions that they're asking, right? Am I stepping back here and figuring out when do I pull them along? When do I push them along? That really all comes together and trying to create that buy-in in the direction that either I'm going or trying to take the team or the business or what strategy we're working on. So there's a lot of different things that go into it, but I think the thing to remember all the time is, how are they experiencing you or how are you making them feel has a lot to do with how quickly you can move along.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. It's that old saying. It's not what you know. It's not what you do. It's not what you say. It's how you make them feel. So important. So important. Talk to me a little bit about this. So, I mean, you do lead a lot of change. To me, it just seems like there's just always something going on behind the scenes, something else that you're working on. What is do you have a process or is there just a way that you go about it? If you're trying to get everybody moving in the same direction and adopt your way of thinking or the technology that you want to implement or get everybody moving on a new initiative, like what would you advise people? How do we do it?
Yeah, so I'll give you an analogy that I use a lot of time when thinking about leading change. Innovation is all the way around us, right? And we continue to adapt and continue to change all the time. And even though it can be uncomfortable for all of us, especially when you're not the one leading it, which in case a lot of times I'm the one leading it, so I got to figure out how to get people to go along with it. So I think about it a lot of times as creating a roadmap. If I reach out to you, Mark, and I tell you that, hey, tomorrow morning we need to be in Orlando, you're instantly, as soon as I say that, and I can see even your face right now when I do, it's like, holy crap, how are we going to pull that off? Like, we're going to fly. Well, we don't have a choice because we can't drive it fast enough in 1,200 miles, right? So you kind of, you get anxious right away, and you start to get nervous, like how are we going to pull this off? And you start to shoot holes in it real fast. But so what I like to do is as you're leading change, I like to give us more time to work through that change. And so I'll set it up and I'll be like, okay, um, next year in July, we're going to be making a trip to Orlando. So here's the date. Here's where we're going to stay. And we start putting together a rough agenda of what it's going to look like. And I'm like, I'm going to give you time so that you have time to think about it. But the end game is we're going to Orlando for a leadership conference or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
Or what the changes that we're going to do. That's the end goal of where we're going to be. And so what I try and do is give them that game plan ahead of time. Keep revisiting it and coming back and adding in more and more details. And so what happens is you start to take ownership of it, where you're like, well, since I'm going to Orlando, instead of flying there and trying to figure out what do I throw in my suitcase in 24 hours, well, I got 365 days to plan it. I'm going to drive it now, and I'm actually going to stop and see some family along the way. I'm also going to, maybe I'm going to end up flying to here or staying at this place because this has really great reviews, or this restaurant, whatever it is. And so what happens is by the time we actually go to Orlando for the conference you and I are going to, or strategy meeting, whatever we're doing, you now own it. You're like, now it's your plan instead of my plan, right? It's your strategy, and you start to own that and can go through and actually you're going to probably execute it at an even higher level than if I would have just forced you into it a lot quicker. So that's really one of the tools that I use a lot, is to try and get people to own it, which is going to lead to a higher level execution. So it's almost like you invest more time up front in order so you can move quicker after the event or whatever meeting that we're doing or whatever change we're going through. It's like you do a lot more legwork up front under explaining the why and having them help build it, so that later on when you get down the road you can move fast.
Yeah, I like that, because it's almost like we're just bringing everybody along little by little. It lines up with how I think about employee development, which or just teaching anything, which is you have to scaffold, right? And it's like, so little by little, hey, here's the big picture. We're going from here to here. But then we work the problem backwards to say, like, hey, as long as we're going from here to here, how would you guys like to go about doing it? And, what do you see? Like, we're going, here's why. But I need you guys to help me build the roadmap on how to get there.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things too. There's so many things that we work on as leaders where we've been working on it for 3-4 months, maybe 6 months. And then we expect to bring in our teams into the room and roll it out in 45 minutes and think they should be just thumbs up and just rolling with it, right?
They're ready to go.
and that's not reality. And especially in today's world, what we have going on, you no longer can just lead with the billy club, right? Or the hammer. Just tell people, hey, you got to follow along or else, because that doesn't work in today's business. So a lot different than when you and I entered it.
Super true. Well, I mean, and back then we would just follow leaders who would do that, right? And you were just expected to get on board or get out. And that is not the world for right, wrong, or indifferent. That's no longer the world we live in.
Yeah, definitely has changed. Creating buy-in now and being a leader where people want to follow you on the roadmap that you're heading down is very, very important to being successful today.
Yeah. How does that affect your culture there at Frontier then? Just that leadership style. How does that affect your culture? How is that contributing, to people attraction, retention, productivity, all the good things?
Yeah. So again, what's important is when people can see the direction that the leaders are heading, it eliminates some of the uncertainty. Because that's a big thing that people really face is, they want to be certain. They want to have an idea where things are going. And they don't necessarily have to have a leader that's making all the right decisions, but they want someone that they're making decisions. They have a plan in place. They have a roadmap laid out for them. So What that has done here at Frontier is helped us from a turnover standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
The team I lead, historically, we've had a very, very low turnover rate. It bounced up a little bit this last year with some of our younger advisors. And for us, that was a chance to really step back, or for myself, to really step back and reflect like, hey, what am I missing? Like, what is it on the sub 26 year olds that we're not doing right? We've made some changes because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've made some changes that, should have an impact because there's some talented individuals in that age group. We just got to figure out how to um,
Yeah.
lead them the right way. And I think we made some changes here that are going to be pretty impactful. Unfortunately, I won't be able to tell you the full results of that until the next couple of years to
Sure.
see how it goes along. But put together a group of them, and I got a leader for that group, and they meet quarterly. So
Good. Love it.
yeah, I think that's really important when you think about the culture. And
Mm-hmm. One of the things I've always admired about you though is like when things go really well, you're looking for, okay, like how do we keep it going? How do we pour gas on what's going well? But then if things don't go well, like you take it, there's a deeply personal part of you that just seems to like really think, okay, like, damn it, that didn't work. Okay, but like now what do we do? How do we go back? Like you're reflective on it. And I see a lot of people that just get mad and, and want to start blaming the generation of people as a whole or whatever. And it's easy to do that, because we want to have something to be afraid of a lot of times. But I like your level of intention that you put in when it comes to solving, for those. I feel like you probably do a pretty good job of calendaring. Like, how do you make sure you have enough time to actually think it through? Because it does take time to think about how to solve those problems.
yeah, one thing that when you get to our age, you figure out. I don't know that you ever figure out time management, right? But just
Mm-hmm.
spend a second on that. Is I have to go into my calendar and actually build in time and be like, okay, I'm going to work on. So, for example, in 24 going into 25, our turnover rate on my team jumped up way higher than it's ever been. And so I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm diving into this. Like, I'm going to get intentional. I want to understand this. I don't care if all the fingers are pointing back at me that I wasn't being a good leader. So be it. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm ready to uncover that. So I went through a process of just going in and deep diving myself, where I'd build it into my calendar that I'm going to work on this. I actually reached out to some of those past employees.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did a, I don't know if you call it an exit interview once they've been gone already for 3 months, but reached out to them. I also dove into within my teams that I lead. I dove into sent out a survey. I created a survey with some questions
Mm-hmm.
and send it out to them. And I didn't know what I was going to get back. I'm like, well, people are going to be honest, right? And one thing is, if you're going to figure out how to fix something or make it better, is you better be ready to take the feedback, good,
Yep.
bad, or different. And so I think just creating that space where you're okay being comfortable with like, hey, I'm gonna dive into this,
Mm.
and I'm gonna figure out like what is missing here. Like, what do
Yep.
I need to do a better job as a leader? Where do I need to put in the work? And it's just, if you don't create the space for it, it's really easy just to slough it off and be like, oh, it's because that generation, they change jobs every 2.5 years. That's just this, or 22 months is this statistic, right? On that's
Mm-hmm.
out there. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to buy that crap.
Yep.
I'm going to buy that. I'm going to dive into it. And I'm going to figure out, what it really is. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it, man. It's super good. Let's talk a little bit more about you with the time that we've got left. So you're a Nebraska guy, born and raised, living in the same area you grew up in. You've been at Frontier for what, 20? I mean, how many years?
23 years in May, I hit
23.
it, which is crazy. Yeah.
You're the opposite of the 22-month job
Yeah.
rotation.
It's crazy. When I started at Frontier as an intern, and at the end of the summer got offered a full-time job and chose not to go on to another level of schooling because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's interesting when I think back on that now, and just, I'm like, oh, I'll be at Frontier 2 to 3 years, and then I'll end up in a, you know, in a corporate setting, right? I'm going to end up in a Bear Corteva, something like
Yep.
that. And yeah, lo and behold, 23 years later, I've had several different roles. And because of that, I always feel like I've moved around throughout the company, locations and offices. And so I just feel like it's been a new job about every 5 years for me.
Yeah, and you just done it all right then. You guys have been through mergers, acquisition. I mean, it's just like all the stuff. I mean, everything you could possibly imagine, right? In the in the ag retail world, you guys have been through it. So it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Who have you had any mentors or people that you've looked up to along the way that were really substantial in your development?
Yeah. There's a couple different people that I feel like one thing is either with mentors or like leaders that you watch over the years. I feel like it changes all the time. I don't know if that's me leveling up or I'm just
Mm.
looking at different areas, but it started out with an uncle, an uncle that him and I think very similar and growing up in a family farm and my uncles owned a feedlot that I was a part of and helped out a lot. But just always got me going from a business strategy standpoint. I'm big into ROI. I'm always trying to figure out like how can we get better, including myself, but also the teams, Frontier. So I'm always looking like, okay, what is it we're going to do? And it's not so much that I'm looking for innovation all the time,
Yep.
but I'm really trying to think about, okay, here's what we did yesterday. How do we get a little bit better tomorrow?
Yep.
So I'm not trying to come up with these new grand plan ideas all the time. What I'm really trying to work on is those continuous improvements. You know, Mark, you introduced me to the Kaizen concept a long time ago. I truly believe in that. I hear that word amongst my team a lot,
Yep.
Kaizen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they drop a swear word with it when they say Kaizen something. So, which is kind of funny, which means yeah, I love hearing that. And you know, that's how we're looking to improve. So started out with an uncle. I had a CEO that was very impactful. Met a lot of CEOs of cooperatives throughout the whole Midwest. One into Kansas, one into Minnesota over the years that were very impactful, and some people within Land O'Lakes that were also very impactful
Mm-hmm.
as far as mentors. And then I've been a part of a executive group for almost 10 years where um, the people that I've met in that I'm still connected with three of them, actually with more than three of them that I
Mm-hmm.
talk to on a weekly basis and sometimes multiple times a week or even during the day on text messaging. And it's great to have people like that in my network that I can use as a sounding
Yep.
board. When I was talking to you earlier about some turnover and stuff on the team with some of our younger advisors, some of the first people I went to was them, and I knew they weren't going to give me the easy answer, right? They were going to make me work at it, and they were going to ask me some hard questions and maybe point out stuff that I didn't want to see.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so mentors are key. The network. And it's not it's great to have your buddies, right, to connect with, but
Sure.
sometimes having the people that are willing to tell you maybe what you don't want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
uh, for me that's where I turn to a lot of times. And
Yep.
I have a Monday morning phone call that lasts from 7:30 to about 7:55, and a lot of times it's not what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear to get your
Right.
head for the week on what you are going to accomplish. And there is a very high level of accountability in that group that they're going to check in with me that I did accomplish it. So
You bet. Yeah.
mentoring is critical.
That has been a huge, huge part of my growth and development over the years as well. What would you say to someone who's in a similar role, maybe similar level in an organization about executive coaching or accountability groups, those kinds of things? Because I mean, I know some are involved, but I find that very few actually across the broad scope of ag retail have some group like that or some coach like that to go to. So, what would be your advice?
I think I think it's very easy to get tunnel vision. It's very easy to be looking down a hallway and you find yourself with all people that are like you. Maybe it's your kids' friends, parents, right? Whatever it is, and you find yourself in this little group all the time. And so what's important when you get into like executive coaching and why it's so important to have is when you start connecting with other people throughout the US, you start, maybe they're in a similar area as I am, but it's different where they're at from a standpoint. Either agriculture is different or business is different because not everybody's in ag. Um, but at the end of the day, they're facing some challenges that could be very similar, or they faced that challenge in the past. And so it's a great place to utilize other people at an executive level to come up with some solutions and not feel like you have to try and ask one of your friends at your son's football game, right?
Right.
Then you can go there and just truly hang out with them and be friends. But you can rely on your executive network. You can rely on them to give you that hard answer, where you got to stop a moment, look in the mirror a little bit. Maybe again, maybe you didn't like what they said, but at the end of the day, it's what you really needed in that moment.
Correct. Yep.
I would encourage people to really make sure that you're a part of a group like that where you connect. It's very important.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I think whether it's the our Ag Leader Summit, like you've been referring to, or something of that nature, and just it's very challenging for leaders to be in the leadership role. You're out there sort of trying to stay 2 or 3 steps ahead of your people. You're not in the role because you already had it all figured out. You're in the role because you're someone who's capable of figuring it out and then communicating the game plan to your people. That's how leadership works, really. And sometimes you don't know, like you just don't really know, and you need that sounding board of somewhere to go and just bounce your ideas off of someone, get feedback, then make your decision and move on, right? So
yeah, it's good when you're working on strategies or you're working on something where you're like, hey, I need a little tweak to this, maybe of what it's going to look like before I roll it out. I utilize that group of executives, and I'll just email them or text them or whatever it is, or maybe a quick Teams or phone call. And it's amazing 15-20 minutes with one of them when you're working on something, or you send them your PowerPoint and they send it back with some notes. It's like, oh my goodness, you just saved me like 5 hours of beating my head.
Yeah, 100%. Big time, big time. Cool, man. We got a late start on recording today, so we're going to cut it short, and we'll do another one for folks in the future, and we'll go deeper on it, John. But any last thoughts that you'd want to share with anybody on your take on being an intentional ag leader?
Yeah, I think the thing to think about is when you're a part of agriculture, it's different. It is different being in ag. When you're intentional, when you care about others. I mean, one of the things is on my why is I don't want to see family farms disappear. I want to see them passed down to the next generation. And so I think about when I'm getting up in the morning, that's one of the things I think about all the time, even if maybe I have way too many meetings today, or maybe things didn't go great yesterday at work or whatever it was. But at the end of the day, I remind myself all the time, like, I want to be able to see it go from grandpa to dad to the son and keep going. I want to see that generational success in agriculture. And so that's what makes me do the work. That's what makes me want to get better all the time and put together, a strategy and create buy-in and lead change effectively for my team. So, yeah.
Outstanding. Good stuff, man. Well, John, thanks for being on the show. This has been a really good one. Short episode, but really impactful. And I think people take something away from it. So appreciate the heck out of you, man. Thanks for being on.
All right. Thanks, Mark.